Hello. In this video, we're going to continue our discussions about factoring trinomials of the type x squared plus bx plus c by examining the constant term c. In the previous video, I advise you to go to give a look. We talked about the sign of the constant term c. When the constant term c, the sign is positive, look for two numbers with the same sign to factorize the trinomial. But when the constant term of the trinomial is negative, we need to look for two numbers whose product is negative. That means you can use, for example, -6. You can take 2 times -3. It all depends on what you want. In this video, we're going to see a couple of examples of trinomials that we're going to factor. The first trinomials is y squared minus 8y plus 15. So what you see in this one, the sign of the constant term 15 is positive, but the sign of the coefficient of y is negative. So we need to use two factors. When we multiply these two together, it gives us positive 15. But when we add these two factors, it would give us negative 8. How we can do that? So let's try to write, let me use my pencil right here. Okay, so if we try to do for a, we can factorize by x plus a number that we don't know yet, factor x plus another number we don't know yet. Why we use plus sign is because the sign of the constant term c is positive. Now, what are the two numbers? When you multiply these two numbers, the product of these two numbers give you 15, but the sum of these two numbers would give you negative 8. So let's try to write it right here. We know two numbers that we can multiply to make 15. We can have 1 times 15. We can then have 15 times 1. We can have 3 times 5. We can have 5 times 3. But we can also have negative for each of them. For example, -1 times -15. We can have -3 times -5. But and -5, we need to correct this. So we can also have -5, -3. But from all of this, when you add them, you see that it's only for this one, -3, -5. When you add these two numbers, it gives you -8. So at this point, we need to factorize our trinomial by doing x minus instead of plus. So we need to remove that minus plus sign. So we will use only x minus because x minus 3, x minus 5 give us 15. So -3 times -5 is 15. -3 plus -5 is -8. So at some point, this is our first example. We're gonna try for the second one, where we have x squared plus 5x plus 6. We see in this one the coefficient, the sign of the constant term c is positive, and the sign of the coefficient of x is also positive. So we expect at this point to use two positive factors. So if we need to do b, let's do b. B would be the factors, it will be x plus a number and factor x plus another number. I'll let you think about it. We have 6 and we want a constant term that has a product of 6. That means we can take 1 times 6, 2 times 3. 2 times 3 gives 6. When we add 2 times 3, that would be 5. So we can do 2 times 3. That gives us 6. And when we do 2 plus 3, it's of course gives us 5. So we see at this point we can factorize this trinomial. Let me take a different color right here. So we can factorize this trinomial by doing x plus 3 and x plus 2. It doesn't matter which one you put first because the multiplication, the factors are multiplication is distributed, so we can keep it x plus 3 times x plus 2. Our third example we can see is C, x squared minus 5x minus 24. So both signs are negative. Constant term C has a negative sign and coefficient of x has a negative sign. So when we have a negative sign, we need to make sure that we take two numbers whose products are negative. So in order to have a number, two numbers whose products are negative, one should be positive, one should be negative. So because we need a negative sign for the coefficient of x, know that the two numbers you would multiply, the largest number should be negative. So when we take 24, we know 24 is can be 24 can be 4 times 6. Let me write 24 right here. 4 times 6. We can also have 8 times 3. We can also have 2 times 12. We can also have 1 times 24. And of course, we see what are the two numbers when we multiply it gives us negative 24. So one of them should be negative. But we see 3 and 8. If we use negative 8 times 3, that would give us negative 24. And when we do negative 8 plus 3, it would give us negative 5. So at this point, in order to factorize this equation, I'm saying equation, but it's really a trinomial, it's an algebraic expression. We can do x plus 3 and we factor x minus 5. And in our third example, we use t, but for these variables, you can use x, y, and z. So you see in example A, I use x, but it should be y. But the last one is t. If we rewrite it, you can rewrite this one as t squared minus plus 4t minus 32. So we need two numbers. When we multiply these two numbers, it gives us minus 32. But when we add them, it should give us 4. So if we have t plus a number, and then we can have t minus a number that we don't know yet. So two numbers, we see 32, we can do 2 times negative 16, we can do 1 times negative 32, we can do 4 times 8. So we see that if we do 4 times 8, 8 minus 4 is 4. So at this point, we can really use our factors like 8 and 4. So 8 should be positive because we need 4 as a coefficient of t. So we can factorize this two as t plus 8 minus times t times 4. So how we can do that? You can always looking for the sign of the constant c, and the constant c would tell you what to do. But to factor any trinomials of the form x squared plus bx plus c, you need to remember that first you need to verify, to arrange your trinomials in a descending order, like put the x squared first. Use a trial and error process that looks to factor of c whose sum is b. So what's the product for c, and when you add these two factors, it gives you b. If c is positive, its factors will have the same sign of b. If c is negative, one factor is positive and the other will be negative. If the sum of the two factors is the opposite of b, changing the sign of each factor would give the desired factors whose sum is b. So you always need to check your answers by replacing the value in the original one when you do equation. But for now, we just factor some algebraic expression that we can call trinomials. So don't forget to subscribe to my channels to see more videos coming on quadratic equations. That would be next.